Tiffany and Cupid. Please say a few words and lead us in the pledge.
Thank you. It's always an honor to be here. As Ernie said, I've been around for a while. He'd asked me today to lead the prayer, and usually I'm the one being prayed for, so I will do my best. It's especially an honor to be here today, sir. If you would rise and uncover, I will lead us in a prayer. Pledge of allegiance first. Okay, I'm sorry. Pledge of allegiance first. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For all. I think we should all take a moment and reflect on the words of our Pledge of Allegiance, especially in these days. Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord, for this wonderful day. Be with us in all our walks in life. Let us be attentive to all who join in the ceremony. Let us remember all of our servicemen and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice, and also those who are still dealing with trials and tribulations. Guide us to help them. We ask this in your name. Amen.
I want to introduce Shannon Kelly, who's my wife and Vice President of Sharon Veterans Village. Thank you. And our Veterans Village staff members that are here today, Wendy, Josephine. Thank you. Thank you. Respect, dignity, honor, trust, prayer, and action is what Veterans Village is all about. We are an organization that never should have taken off. Our demise was predicted in the press, in the community, and time has a way of us being able to work on this issue of housing our veterans, because and helping our veterans. That's our bottom line. We're nothing more and nothing less than that. And anybody who's interacted with us knows that we are an ultra grassroots organization, and that we are open 24/7, 365, and that nobody has ever turned away from Veterans Village, ever, whether they're veteran or not veteran. This community suffers from an extreme housing shortage, an extreme hunger shortage, an extreme poverty level that's unacceptable to me. My father, who was a United States Navy veteran, World War II. My mom, who was a dance hostess at the USO Canteen in Columbus, Ohio during the war. My family, who fought, many of my uncles and cousins fought in the war and wars after that. And the same with Shannon's family and a lot of people in this room, our staff. And so my remarks are very brief, and I am extremely honored to ask Mikey Kelly, who's the chair of the Nevada Democratic Veterans and Family Caucus, to please say some words.
Dr. Stalk, thank you for having us here. Shannon, we thank you for that. We appreciate it. Senator Sanders, thank you for coming. We are absolutely humbled and we are honored. Thank you, Senator. Before we continue, I want to acknowledge some of our elected officials in the room, as well as county party elected officials. We have with us Assemblywoman Brittany Miller from Assembly District 5 in Summerlin, who is a strong supporter of veterans, who this caucus just the other day awarded our highest honor to for her support for veterans. and her willingness to go the extra mile. And we also want to welcome our chair of the Clark County Democratic Party, Donna West, as well as our first vice chair-elect, who is actually the first woman veteran to be the first vice chair, Gabrielle Dare. And I also, as well, I want to welcome some of my board members, Vic Rivera, who is our communications officer for the Nevada Democratic Veterans and Military Families Caucus. Senator, I thank you for coming out to visit with us. We appreciate that. Before we continue on with this town hall, one of the things I like to make sure that our candidates are aware of is what we do. So the mission of the Democratic Veterans Caucus, or the DemVets for short, is to promote issues of veterans within the Democratic Party, as well as to promote the Democratic Party to veterans. All too often, we see the Republican Party can try to take that vote when they've done absolutely nothing for the veterans community. And it absolutely has frustrated us. And so we're going out there, going the extra mile, trying to promote the party and solutions to all veterans. And strangely, you'd be surprised, we actually get a lot of support. We get a lot of assistance from even Republican and independent veterans. So we're doing a great job. My board is working hard every single day. One of the things I want to talk to everyone about, and Senator, you especially, is the key to veteran success. What I've discovered in my travels and in talking to different veterans, one thing comes to mind, and it's respect. And we've broken that down into an acronym. So what our concerns are: respect for the sacrifice, respect for the sacrifice of veterans and military families. Our families give up a lot to serve. They give up a lot. They suffer. We suffer emotionally, mentally, physically. The separation, it's hard, and it takes its toll. Oftentimes, we're ignored. We're a small population. In Nevada, actually, we're not that small. We're about 10% of the population. There are about as many African Americans in Nevada as there are veterans. And we would never ignore the African American community. But oftentimes this community gets ignored, and it's hard, and across the country we do as well. So we're committed to respect for veterans and military families. Entrepreneurship and job opportunities. We talk a lot about the 20 suicides a day, but what really makes a difference is when we have jobs and we have the ability to own our own businesses. And there are a lot of veterans who would love to own their own businesses, but oftentimes they find that there are barriers put in their way to keep them from doing that. We're working past that to get through those barriers. Something that you are two issues that you're supportive of, and I'll talk about: safe, clean, and affordable housing. It is very hard at times for veterans to find housing that they can move into that they can afford. So we are committed. We have to see increased commitment to provide safe, clean, and affordable housing. Protection from discrimination and harassment. I will tell you, and I say this as both a black man and as a veteran, it is very difficult at times to be both. Because you'd think when we're on active duty, it would be better. Sometimes we see it on active duty, and then we see it when we get out. So it's really hard. And just recently, there was a study that said that the chances of African American and Latino service members, the chances of them receiving non-judicial punishment and court-martials, very high. It's higher than our white counterparts. So if we're seeing that in the military, we all know how badly it is on the civilian side. So we need to work towards ending that disparity as soon as possible and protecting us from that discrimination. Efficient and accountable government. We've all heard the stories about inefficiency in the VA and different state agencies and local agencies. Folks, we got to be committed to ending that. We've got to be committed to efficient, accountable government, because when the government can provide the services necessary, guess what? It solves problems. Compassionate, quality health care. I like the VA, personally. For me, it's been okay. But there are a lot of veterans who don't have that same experience. We're blessed out here in Nevada to have a fairly brand new facility. But there are a lot of places across the United States, Senator, where their facilities are old, they're dilapidated, they don't have enough doctors, they don't have enough staff members, and the people, quite frankly, sometimes the staff just doesn't give a damn about us. And finally, training and educational opportunities that lead to stable, high-paying civilian employment. I want to make this clear to everyone in this room. Veterans, I've heard this sometimes from people. People will say, we want you to become productive members of society. No, my friends, veterans, we were always productive members of society. We want to continue to be productive members of society. So, Senator, we come to you with our pains, our hearts. We come to you with our dreams, and we ask you to hear us, to hear us, to listen, to hopefully make a difference for us. Senator Sanders, on behalf of the Nevada Democratic Veterans and Military Families Caucus, we'd like to welcome you. Thank you. Oh. Sorry. Can you hold that, please?
This is the highest honor that we have, and like I said, we're very, very grassroots. You know, we thrive on people bringing in bottles of water, and those that follow me on Facebook know that I'm relentless of putting a word out for our veterans and the community. And we'd like to present you with our folded framed American flag from Veterans Village, Las Vegas.
Thank you very much.
And without further ado, Senator Sanders, thank you.
Well, let me thank all of you for being here. Let me thank everybody who has spoken. Let me thank all of those who have worked so hard to do everything we can to protect our veterans. I speak to you actually as a member of the U.S. Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs, and in fact the former chair of that committee, so I have some familiarity with the issues. And I start off by saying this. We can disagree about the wisdom of this or that war. Okay, and my record is pretty clear. I opposed as a young man the war in Vietnam. That's what I did. I vigorously opposed the war in Iraq as a member of the Congress. And I think that going to war in Iran would be a terrible, terrible disaster. That's my view. Having said that, one of the issues that we have learned over the years is that we do not blame the men and women who put their lives on the line doing what they were told to do in those wars. If you don't like a war, you blame the Congress and the president for getting you into that war, not the men and women who fought in that war. And that was not a lesson learned in the Vietnam era. Let's be clear about that. And a lot of people came home. Those who came home, we have 59,000 who never came home, and we have many came home who were deeply wounded in body and in spirit. And many of those people never made it for many, many years. They were crushed. So what we have to understand, again, that in a democracy, people can agree or disagree about the wisdom of a war, but you don't blame the warriors for a war that they did not create. Okay. Issue number 2. From a human perspective, we cannot ask anything more of a human being than putting their lives on the line to defend us. That is the most that we can ask of any human being. And that is what we ask of the men and women in uniform. And it seems to me to be commonsensical that we have a moral responsibility to understand that when those men and women come home from a war, and war is a terrible, terrible thing, and sometimes I get a little bit upset about politicians who are so quick to talk about going to war knowing that it's not their kids or their grandchildren who are going to be fighting that war. All right? It's going to be the children of the working class who fight that war. All right? And what we all know is that war is not a normal human interaction. It is not normal to kill people. It is not normal to see people by your side get killed and wounded. It is not a normal experience. And we know that, and I know this personally as the former chair of the Veterans Committee, we have seen people coming home without legs, without arms, without their eyesight. And that is a terrible thing. But we have also seen, just from Iraq alone, we have seen many, many, many thousands of people come home with post-traumatic stress disorder. Coming home not able to do the work that they were previously able to do. Coming home not able to relate to their wives or their kids in a way they previously were able to do. And we have a moral responsibility. If a country is worth anything, it is how we treat those people who put their lives on the line to defend us. And frankly, we have not been doing anywhere near as much as we should. And that is why I want to congratulate the Veterans Village for the extraordinary work they are doing. I think we have made some improvements over the years, but for too long, veterans applied for their benefits and they had to wait for a god-awful long period of time to see that happen. I think we've made some improvements in that area. We have not made the kind of improvements that we need in terms of health care. There are some people, to be frank with you, who would like to privatize the Veterans Administration healthcare system. I strongly oppose that direction. As the chairman of the VA, I introduced what the VFW and some of the other veterans organizations, the American Legion, the DAV, considered to be the most comprehensive piece of veterans legislation in modern history. It would have opened the doors to every veteran. It would have expanded veterans' health care. It would move us away from drug therapies to alternative type complementary medicine and not make sure that our veterans don't get strung out on opioids and other types of drugs. All right. It would have provided for the first time dental care as a right for all veterans, which is not now the case. All right. Right now in the VA, we have some 40,000 vacancies. We need more doctors. We need more nurses. We need more psychologists and psychiatrists. We need more dentists. We need to fully fund the VA and make sure that it is there providing quality care to everybody who walks in the door. We have to improve our outreach to make sure that people know the benefits to which they are entitled. You can have the greatest benefits in the world, but if people don't know about them, it doesn't do anybody any good. We got to make sure that veterans get in the door when they need to get into the door. In Vermont, we started a program, and it spread to other states, where we had veterans going out knocking on doors to veterans' homes, just checking up on them, see how they're doing, and encouraging them to get the medical care and the VA care that they needed. So there is a lot of work to be done. And again, I want to thank the Veterans Village not only for the work they are doing with veterans, not only making sure that our veterans receive the respect and the dignity to which they are entitled, but even opening up the door, as I understand it, to non-veterans. Now, the truth of the matter is, I don't know how to say this appropriately, we should not have to have emergency food shelves in America. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And people should not have to line up for emergency food. We should be a nation in which all of our people are earning living wages so that they don't need to get emergency food. We should be a nation which, instead of giving tax breaks to billionaires, is investing and building the affordable housing that we need. And we're talking here not only about homelessness, and tonight there'll be some 35,000 veterans sleeping out on the streets of America as part of 550,000 people in this country who are homeless. And as Arnie mentioned to me a moment ago, the solution to the homeless crisis is build affordable housing. That's what it is. And that's what we have to do as a nation. As a nation, above and beyond VA healthcare, which has to be strengthened, we should do what every other major country on earth does and recognize that healthcare for all is a human right, not a privilege. In my view, I know people disagree with me, in my view, the function of healthcare is to guarantee healthcare to all people, not to make billions in profits for the drug companies or the insurance companies. So I'm here this afternoon not to give a speech, but to learn. I'd love to hear what people have to say, what the experience is of the veterans community here in Las Vegas and Nevada. And people have any comments, I'd love to hear them, questions, do my best to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator. Thank you. So, Mikey, you want to talk about time limit, and so we can maximize that?
So, folks, we're gonna go around. We have some veterans here, some great veterans, some great warriors who are here, and they're going to be asking some questions. We've talked about 2 minutes per person to ask their question and give the senator an opportunity to answer. I apologize. I completely apologize. I also want to welcome Dr. Cornel West here to. Thank you. We welcome you abundantly. So we're going to start. We're just going to get right to it, and we're going to start right in the first row. The first gentleman right there.
I'm good.
Hi, I'm Donna Charles. My husband was in the Marine Corps for 30 years. He passed 3 years ago, and God sent me here. I want to bless him, thank you, and it's a miracle.
Donna, are you using the facilities of Veterans Village?
I am.
And it's working well for you?
Oh, it's wonderful.
All right, so since you came in here and found this place, your life has been significantly improved?
Oh, 150%.
Okay, can I ask you, Donna, where you were, what was going, feel free or not, that's okay.
Okay, I was homeless for 3 years after my husband passed. Then my daughter passed. Then my dog. Off and on, they won't hire me because they said I'm what do you call it? They don't want to be responsible if I get hurt. So I'm just stumbled, met Wendy. She loved me. She brought me in. You need to be here. And I finally got my Social Security, disability, and I don't know, it feels weird not to work. But I love it here.
Donna, let me ask you, and again, if I ask people questions, please say, I really don't want to talk about it. I don't want anybody to feel embarrassed or talking in front of a TV camera here. But, you know, I was thinking today as we were driving around Las Vegas, and the temperature, I think, last seen was 103, 104 degrees, which I know is cool for you, but for some of us, that's pretty hot, I got to tell you. We don't get that in Vermont. I was just thinking, I was talking to some of the people in the car. I don't know how people survive today who are out on the street. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know if we have any statistics about mortality rates or something like that. If I were out on the street today, or any of you were out on the street, I just, Donna, could you maybe just give us, let her hold the mic, she can hold it.
Okay.
Tell me about living out on the streets, what that means. What is it like?
It's horrible.
Stand up, so if you could.
Where there's a will, there's a way. And, you know, that's what we're all here for, to help the ones that are still out there. I couldn't make it if I didn't come here. I just turned 65 May 15th. And it's wonderful. I'll never leave.
Thank you very much, Lena. Arnie, can I jump in here and ask a question? Okay, I am just, hit hard by the heat out there and the very difficult conditions for anybody who's outside. Can anybody talk a little bit about what it's like to be homeless in these kinds of conditions? Yes, please.
Gary Elliott.
Gary,
Elliott.
Stand up if you could, Gary.
Gary Elliott, U.S. Army. I was homeless in 2000 for about 9 months. And I lived up under a bridge, and I had bottles that I peed in, and then I had bottles that I collected water in, to have water. So the side of the bridge, I had stuff that I'd nail up to the wall to be able to collect water and stuff. All the survival techniques and stuff I learned in the service. But, I had a lean-to in the woods. It was like I had a choice, So when you got really hot, there wasn't anywhere to go. And like sometimes in Vegas, if you drive around, you can't go to the bathroom because they won't let you in the bathroom because they're afraid you're going to wash your clothes or take a bath in the bathroom. I had to go to like Burger King and get a drink to get into the bathroom. So it's really tough here because there's just so many homeless. And everywhere you go, there's always panhandling and whatever, but you got to do what you got to do. I was only living on $300 a month. You can't do nothing with a 10% pension from the government. You just can't do anything with it. So I, washed dishes and whatever I could for cash, wash cars. But, you can only do so much. And then the system was constantly, you got to be clean. You got to be sober. You got to, and it was difficult to even try to keep my head straight.
Let me interrupt you and ask you that. I read someplace that somebody said X percentage of people who are homeless have mental issues. My God, anybody here out on the street for 2 days, you would have a mental issue. I just don't know by definition. Living out there under that stress, it's hard for those who go to bed tonight, in a hotel room or in our own homes to appreciate what it's like. You don't know where you're going to sleep. You don't know who's going to come. The fear of all that violence and everything else. It is unbelievable. And what is really unbelievable to me is that we have kind of acculturated ourselves to the fact that there are 500,000 people sleeping out on the street today. And you got a lot in Las Vegas, yeah? Okay. And we got to end that. That is not normal. We cannot accept that as normal. That is abnormal. And as a government, as a society, we have got to end that. And we know how to end that. Funding organizations like this is one approach. But building the affordable housing this country desperately needs, paying special attention to the veterans. We put some money, not enough, into veterans housing, but we got to do a heck of a lot more. But thank you very much, Gary. Anybody else? Anybody else want to talk about that? Sir, right here. Paul?
Yeah, my name is Paul Lawson, Army. I drove a truck for a living after I got out of the service. My hand was damaged while I was in the service. My best friend was shot 7 times, died right in front of me. They made me identify him. I couldn't get my head on straight. I was in for less than a year and a half, and I have permanent hand damage, but I can't get service from the VA. You're done. Just because of the way you had to get out. Mentally, we didn't give you a chance to repair yourself. You're out, and we're not going to let you in. So I'm still fighting that every day just to try to do that. But driving that truck across the United States, you see what you're talking about, the homeless. It's not just in the hot areas, cold areas, freezing, people freezing outside. I've seen people freeze to death. I've seen people die because of the heat. There's no sense in this is the richest country in the world. There's no reason we should have anybody out here dying. And because of that man right there, he saved 2 of us. His organization has saved thousands of us. And it can be repeated everywhere in the United States. Not just the housing and the food help, but the mental help. And put people here that can help you get through the bureaucracy of the paperwork of the VA and all these medical. I'm not talking about just military. I'm talking about human society and life out on the street that don't even know where to take a shower, don't know where to eat, where they're going to stay warm, where they're going to stay cold. How can you sit back and watch that as a nation? Stop fighting these wars that have nothing to do with us. We're not the world police. Take care of our own for a while. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paul. Other thoughts on that? On homelessness or? Okay. All right. Yes, I see a hand right there, sir.
Hello, Senator Sanders. My name is Rudolph Da Silva. I serve in the United States Marine Corps. And so the question I had, it's not necessarily related to homelessness, but after I finished serving, I was a recipient of the GI Bill. I finished undergrad and I wanted to pursue my education. And I know a lot of other...
Did that work out well for you, the GI Bill?
To a certain degree, but unfortunately, I still had to take on college debt. And I know a lot of other service members that I served with who are extremely talented, smart, sharp kids, they were too scared to try to pursue getting a higher education because of how expensive college was. And in a lot of cases, even those students who did pursue their higher education and wanted to pursue their dreams and do what they wanted to do in life, essentially the amount of college debt they got, even with using the GI Bill, has pretty much made it very difficult in their lives to basically live life and pursue their own careers. And I just wanted to address that situation.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Let me pick up on what Paul said and what Rudolph just said. Rudolph, did you name me? Yeah. And, we have kind of got to do a little bit of rethinking about who we are as a nation and what is normal and what is not normal. As Paul was saying, it is not normal, or it should not be normal, that fellow Americans are freezing to death or dying in the heat or sleeping out on the streets. So we've got to get that in our mind. That is not what this country is supposed to be about, and we must never accept it as normal. We must not step over people on the street and say, well, that's America, that's normal. It is not normal. In terms of education, Rudolph raises a very good point. We passed, I think it was 2008-ish, I'm guessing, the GI Bill. And what the GI Bill said that people who served in the military during the Iraq war era, would be able to get substantial financial help in order to get a college education. And it has helped. It's a good program, and it helped a whole lot of people. But what Rudolph also says, it did not go far enough. So what I want you all to think about for a moment is everybody in this room, and I suspect everybody in America, understands that as a nation, if we are going to do well, we need to have the best educated workforce in the world, right? That we all understand that as human beings, and Dr. West, who teaches at Harvard right now, knows this better than anybody else, that learning is an inherent part of who we are as human beings. When you're not learning, you're dying. All right? We should all be learning. It's 24 hours a day from babyhood to our death. All right? And I want you to think about what is going on in education today. And that is, we have hundreds of thousands of bright young people who cannot go to college, not because they lack the desire or the ability, it's they don't have the financial resources to do that. Furthermore, we have tens of millions of people, some 45 million people, who have either graduated college or more likely dropped out of college, who now have very substantial and onerous student debt. All right, we're talking about people with 50,000. We're talking about people with 100,000. I didn't know this until 3 or 4 years ago. In Vermont, some young woman came to me and said, Bernie, I just graduated medical school. I'm really happy. I'm doing the work I want to do. I graduated $300,000 in debt. I said, I couldn't believe that. Go to Iowa, talk to a young woman, graduated dental school, $400,000 in debt. That's not uncommon. You got people who cannot get married and have children because they are paying off their student debt. You got an entire generation of people your age, Rudolph, who, everything being equal, will be less well off than your parents because you're dealing with student debt, because the real inflation accounted for wages you are earning are less than what your parents earned, and you're not going to have the opportunity that they had to even own your own home. That is what's going on with your generation. So what do we do about it? We understand, again, getting back to what Paul said about homelessness. But it's not just homelessness. It's many other aspects of our society. It is the saying that we want all of our young people to get the education they need to fulfill their dreams. That's what you said, to fulfill their dreams. You want to be a doctor? Then you go to medical school. You want to be a teacher? You get the degree you need. You want to be a carpenter? Get the training you need. You want to be a plumber? Get that training. And you should have that training regardless of the income of your family. And that is why I have fought for, and we're having some success, in A, making public colleges and universities tuition free. All right? But we've got to go even further than that, because it's not just tuition. There are a lot of other expenses that people have. We've got to cover that as well. And the second point deals with the student debt that Rudolph raised. I came up with a proposal, and I've been criticized by everybody in the world, all of the establishment, criticizing me. All of you remember, and this is, again, thinking outside of the box. 10 years ago, 11 years ago, 2009, 10 years ago, the Congress, against my vote, I was in the Senate then, the Congress, against my vote, voted to provide trillions of dollars in bailout for the people on Wall Street whose illegal behavior, reckless behavior, destroyed the economy. No problem. We're going to bail out the crooks on Wall Street because they are wealthy and powerful and they wanted that money. Okay? Last year, we provided $1.5 trillion in tax breaks for the top 1% and profitable large corporations. You got companies like Amazon made $11 billion in profit last year. You know how much they paid in taxes? Anyone know? Zero. They paid less than you did. $11 billion in profit. That's called a rigged system. Okay? So what my belief is, and what I have proposed, is if we can give $1.5 trillion in tax breaks to the 1% and large corporations, if you can bail out Wall Street, we can cancel all student debt in this country. And we pay for that. We pay for it. It's an expensive proposition, $2.2 trillion over 10 years. We pay for that through a tax on Wall Street speculation. If we could bail out Wall Street can help the working class of this country.
Thank you. Senator Sander, my name is Sue Phelps. I'm the president of Society Military Widow, Las Vegas Chapter 34. And today, I understand we talk about homeless, we talk about the student loan. I'd like to talk about one thing. It's been pretty much overlooked since 1972. It's the benefit for the widows. It's called, in the Senate, it's a bill called S622. It's a DIC and offset of the SBP. DIC is a dependent indemnity compensation. It's the right our husband earned for us, for his widow. And SBP is the, our husband purchased the insurance before he retired. He paid for that. So as a widow, if we qualify for both of them, why we had to be deducted from DIC? And this bill currently is in the Senate. And we like to have them as have a freestanding DAA. So we can have that to be voted in your court to benefit us, because we've been overlooked since 1972. We waited too long. I hope you can do something for us. Thank you.
We'll take a very hard look at that. I think you raised, I'm sorry, your first name is Sue? All right, Sue raised a very important issue that I should have talked about earlier. And that is, when we talk about veterans' issues, you're not just talking about the veteran himself or herself. You're talking about the entire family. You know, I remember, you know, and a lot of this has to do with Vermont, but it's true all over this country. When we send people off to war, we forget that there's a wife and kids back home, scared to death about what might happen. We forget that if somebody does not come home from war, what that means to the wives or the husbands or the entire family. So when we talk about veterans' needs, Sue is right in saying that we've got to be looking at family needs for the veteran and everybody else who is impacted by service. Yes.
Oh, I got an outside voice. I'm so good. Okay, so in retrospect to that, in families, I'm a veteran. I'm a war veteran. And if it wasn't for this place, I'm fleeing domestic violence with my kids. And as a woman, as a minority woman and a war vet, we're overlooked at red tape. You don't qualify for this. This is my second time dealing with U.S. vets and veteran services, and let alone just state government services to get assistance as a woman, a veteran, a single mom. You know, it's very difficult to continue to flee and request help, and none is given. It's very difficult for women dealing with domestic violence to reach out to get help and be failed time and time again, because domestic violence comes in so many different forms. And here in Vegas, it's overlooked. If you don't have a mental issue diagnosed outside of PTSD, because I haven't, my kids know I do. Okay.
Well, you got beautiful kids, by the way.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
But it's very difficult to continue to reach out because of the red tape.
Look, a lot of this red tape has its origin in not wanting to provide funding for people who need it. So if I want to keep you from getting the services that you need, I will have you fill out a dozen different forms, and you'll eventually give up, and I don't have to fund your program. This is very much what the insurance companies do, right? You get sick and you fill out a form, takes them forever, they deny it, and their goal is to deny what you are entitled to, because they make more money if they deny it. In this case, it's not the government makes more money, it spends less money. So the issue that we have to deal with in terms of domestic violence, you are not a bureaucracy, right? People walk in the door and they get help. This is what we need. Now, will there be some people who will take advantage? Yeah, there will be. Maybe there's 1% or 5%. So what? That's the way the world goes. And if we could serve the other 95%, when we talk about dignity, it means that when you walk in, we believe you, and you get the care that you need. And you don't have to fill out a dozen different forms. That's rampant in the VA. I know that. So many people have said, I give up. God, leave me alone. I don't want to. I need the help, but it's too hard. I'm embarrassed. I got to fill out 100 forms. Is that correct? Yes. All right. Yes. So what we did, and what I try to do as chairman, didn't quite work, is open the damn door to any veteran in America. I don't want to know how much money you make. So if you're a millionaire, you know, if you're a millionaire and you want to take care of into the VA, so what? Come in. All right, let's do that. And that's the same thing we're doing with debt. Cancel the damn debt. All right, make all public colleges and universities tuition free for anybody. And one of the reasons is, and it's not just your story in domestic violence and being a veteran. It is all over this country because we don't have the adequate funding. We are making it harder for people to access the services that they need. That has got to change, and I will change it.
Senator, can I say something? Because what you just said made a very good point. I just want to bring something up. Assemblywoman Miller, who's sitting in the up front, she has been a supporter of veterans. She actually sensed a lot of this issue because she found that veterans weren't getting the services from the state that they were entitled to, particularly with health benefits, presumptive conditions. So Assemblywoman Miller sponsored Assembly Bill 300 that provides for, it urges physicians, mental health professionals to ask the question. In fact, you know what? Let Assemblywoman Miller.
Okay, so thank you for that. Briefly, because I know you're not here to see me, what it does is it urges mental health professionals, all healthcare professionals, doctors, anyone, to ask the question if you've ever served in the U.S. Armed Forces. And at that point, it's a twofold goal. That one, they will then encourage you to visit the Department of Veteran Services, because we know there are benefits that you're entitled to that you may be missing out on. And of course, moreover than that, when it comes to healthcare, helping come to possibly a quicker diagnosis or treatment for you, because we know what this is about is the presumptive conditions going all the way back to World War I, starting with mustard gas, through Vietnam with Agent Orange, through recently with the burn pits, through the fire retardants, through Camp Lejeune and the poison water. All of these different conditions that our service members have been exposed to that are causing a litany of diseases, over 20 different cancers, multiple dozens and dozens of different conditions and diseases, and making sure that people are getting the benefits that they're entitled for. So that's what we're...
Brittany, that is great. That is great legislation. Look, as I said earlier, if you don't know what you're entitled to, doesn't matter. We can pass the greatest laws in the world, which we don't. But if you don't know what you are entitled to, you're not going to take advantage of it. And one of the areas, and what Brittany is talking about, and what the VA and we're working on this, is do a lot better job on outreach. I went around the state of Vermont to tell veterans that they were entitled to far less expensive prescription drugs than they knew that they were. They didn't know that. So hundreds of people came into the VA to take advantage of that. All right, so we got to improve the kind of benefits we give to veterans, but we have to make sure they know what they are entitled to. And that's what you're talking about, and that is great stuff. And the other point you made, whether it's the burn pits, whether it's Agent Orange, going back to World War I, mustard gas. When you're serving in the military, you get all kinds of environmental degradation thrown at you, all kinds of stress. Never forget a meeting I went to. Never forget a meeting I went to. Randolph, Vermont. A meeting with veterans. And we had a kind of a round circle, people talking on it. And this woman says, I'm living with this guy who was a World War II veteran, so years ago. He still wakes up in the middle of the night. Still wakes up protecting himself from what he thought was an assault by the enemy. How many people still live with, there you go. There you go. All right. All right. That has to be dealt with in the most humane way that we possibly can. Okay? Thanks a lot, sir. Great job.
I just want to say something really quick that, and I don't know how we're doing on time. It's a few minutes to 4, but you've invigorated this group, Senator. Let me tell you, you riled me up. It doesn't take much, but you know, and what I want to say is what I say everywhere I go. There is a solution to this problem. It's complex, but there is a solution. It's with us, it's 5 steps. It's emergency housing, it's transitional housing, it's permanent rental housing, excuse me, and it's assisted living. We have an 88-bed assisted living facility on 14th and Fremont. And so we have a master plan to end this thing. I've been in the White House 3 times this year. I don't know if they listened to me, but I've been there. They helped me a little bit. The Obama administration invited us. But we don't want to just get invited. We have solutions, we have models that work, and there's no reason in the world that our veterans should be suffering like this. And a forum like this is priceless to us, and it gives us hope and strength. And we were told you can't build housing and specialize it for female veterans. You can't provide housing for veterans that have HIV and the AIDS virus. You can't house veterans that are just off the street that don't fit the VA template. You can't, and we've done, and done. And so I don't know how we're doing on time, if we can take more questions, but I think that we've run out of time.
Laura Gibson, United States Army.
Hey, Laura.
Hi. I recently moved here to Vegas from a small town in northeast Tennessee, 4,400 people. And the nearest VA medical center was the James H. Quillen VA Medical Center in Johnson City, which was an hour and a half from my home. I don't understand how unfortunately, I recently got divorced, but during my marriage, my husband had insurance through the VA because I was the veteran. He could go to any hospital, any doctor, anywhere, anytime, and it would be covered. If I had an emergency, I had to drive an hour and a half to the you can't do it.
Laura, I mean, one of the changes that we made, the issue that you raised is an issue that exists all over rural America, Vermont, Tennessee, okay? No, you should not have to travel an hour and a half. And in fact, the law has been changed that you can. Now, I know there's a bureaucracy there as well, but precisely to deal with that law, with that problem, you should be able to go to a neighborhood physician and get the care you need without traveling that hour and a half, okay? That, we did change that, quite intentionally. Okay, see a hand right there, sir? Yeah.
Hi, Senator. My name is Homero Gonzalez from the Air Force. I wanted to circle back to what Mikey was saying earlier about respect. I was watching the debates last week, and in that second debate in Miami, I think we merited one comment in the context of protecting undocumented veterans, which is important. My question to you is what needs to happen I mean, I know Detroit is coming up, right? At the end of the month, the debate's there. What needs to happen to bring veteran issues to the forefront? What can you do? Because I'm conscious of your record, and it's a great record, but when you got millions of people watching the debates, that's not the time to use the veteran name to get a cheap pop from the audience. I think that's the time to bring forward the many issues on homelessness, education, medical, for veterans exclusively. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree. I mean, debates are a kind of crazy format because you got 45 seconds to answer, you know. But I think the more important point, if I may say, is that the issues we're talking about today have got to be addressed and dealt with and discussed not only in a democratic debate, but on the floor of the Congress and all over this country. That's what we have to do. All right. I see a hand back there. Ma'am? Yep. Okay.
Thank you. Senator Sanders, my name is Ruben De Silva. I was a formerly undocumented immigrant who got my papers when I was 13. I grew up in this neighborhood. I'm a teacher now. And I didn't receive my citizenship until 2007. I joined the Marines in 2003, petitioned several times to get my citizenship. And I was laid in a hospital bed in San Diego, Balboa Hospital, when a caseworker came to me and asked me who I liked in the presidential election back then. And I said, I can't vote because I'm not a U.S. citizen. I was injured in the war. I was shot through the arm in Fallujah. It was at that time that they took my petition seriously and finally allowed me to receive my citizenship. I was wondering, Senator Sanders, when you're president, if you would do all you can, even through executive action, to make sure that those of us who are immigrants who serve in the United States military will get their citizenship in an expedited manner, because I think it's just fair. Thank you, Senator.
I think it is more than fair, Ruben. Thank you for your service.
Good afternoon, Senator. My name is Dominic Archibald. I'm a retired Army colonel, two-time combat vet. I was at the Pentagon on the day that it was hit. In 2015, my son, Nathaniel Harris Pickett, was gunned down in the state of California by a San Bernardino County sheriff. No weapon, no crime. And unless you think Mama's just making that up, we've already been through the court system where that has been bared out many times. People think that these shootings are one or two here, Alton Sterling or this name or that name. But the truth of the matter is that they happen 3 to 4 times per day to the tune of something like 1,300 per year. In California, between 2013 and 2017, 1,077 of those shootings, with not one person held accountable, not one indictment. I will tell you, having been to Iraq, Afghanistan, Kuwait, that as a military member, we have more rules of engagement against a known enemy than we do on the streets of the United States of America. So I understand that we talk sometimes about retraining, and I understand that people think, oh, well, it is a dangerous job. A female soldier is just as dangerous in those locations. If I can go and do it, and I know that I just can't gun down a citizen of Iraq or these other countries, then it should happen here. There is no statute of limitation on murder, and that's exactly what is going on. Stop killing us and hold people accountable that are killing us, because I guarantee you, if people believe that there's a consequence, training or no training, it'll slow down real fast.
And that was our last question for the event. But Colonel, let me, as a former captain, I will tell you, when the accountability that we do have as officers, again, if I disobey your orders, what's the first thing I'm going to get? I'm going to get chewed out severely. I'm going to get relieved on the spot. So there is accountability is very important. And back to that, efficient and accountable government, that's key. And we as veterans bring all that to the table. You would agree? That's it. So
people have got to be held accountable for their actions. There's no question about it. All right, let me, on that note, thank all of you for being here. Thank the Veterans Village for the extraordinary work that they are doing, not only for the people of Las Vegas, but setting a model for what we have to do as a nation. And well, all I guess want to say is that we owe a debt of gratitude to the people who put on the uniform of this country. It's a debt that can never be fully repaid. But we have a moral responsibility to do everything we can to protect those who served in the military. And as your president, that is exactly what I will do. Thank you all very much.